Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us this week as we will be discussing Netflix's White Tiger, which is based on the novel by Arvina Adinga. I apologize if I mispronounced that. And it chronicles the life of Balram, Hawaii, as he journeys from a poor, uneducated villager to driving for one of the wealthiest families in India, to eventually becoming a wealthy entrepreneur and owning his own business in Bangalore. Wow. Tammy, what did you think of The White Tiger?
I really enjoyed it. I like the message of it. The commentary that he gave. I like the fact that they switched between is it Hindi? I think they is what you call I hope I'm saying
the language. Yeah,
the language,
it was
right?
Hindi.
Yeah, I like that they switched between English and Hindi. I think that was a more realistic view of how they may talk in India, rather than just having a full English speaking movie. But the subtitles, I'm so used to reading subtitles now that that's like nothing to me. Like, I don't even watch English speaking shows without subtitles. But I really did enjoy it. I liked seeing how he was writing to the prime minister or the chancellor, I forget what they call these people, of China, telling him his whole story. And so it was definitely enjoyable from beginning to end. Like, I didn't feel bored at any time as I was watching this movie. So I enjoyed it. It was good. What about you, Eddie?
I feel the same. I was happy when you added it to the list. I thought it was one I might have to do as a quick pop. So when you added it, I was like, yes. And I don't know. I think I went into it with a little bit of hesitation, but then I think some of that was alleviated when I found out Ava DuVernay was one of the producers and responsible for the U.S. distribution through her Array Films. And I know how she is about representation. So, Priyanka Chopra Jonas was also, not only did she start it, but she also was an executive producer. So, and I talked to one of our friends who is part Indian about it, and she was and I asked her about the realism. Of course it is adapted from a novel, but I asked her, we had a good discussion about it. And she said it really was, even though it is fiction, it's based on works of fiction. A lot of the depictions were very realistic about life in India. Especially the caste system that they're still dealing with, the extreme poverty, and all of that, and just his behavior. So I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I thought it was a perfect mix of like Slumdog Millionaire meets Parasite. It was like a great hybrid of those two movies.
I've never seen Slumdog Millionaire, so I cannot talk about that. I just never sat down to watch it. But, of course, we saw Parasite because we have our bonus episode talking about it. And I got that feeling as well. Like, I was just like, ooh, is this the Indian version of Parasite? To show, because it really shows the classism and how classism definitely affects India, because the image that, we as Americans would have of of it being exotic and beautiful, and then you really get to see how much poverty they have there. Now, granted, because of my major, we've done papers on classism and everything like that, so I did know about the extreme poverty in India, and I did know how the caste system and the undesirables, which I feel that he was probably ultimately part of the undesirable caste system. So that's like the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. And they're the darkest skinned skinned Indians in the country. So it was definitely interesting to see poverty and classism within the Indian culture, just like last week when we did Parasite and we saw the classism within South Korea and the amount of poverty. So, America's not by themselves on the huge gap between the rich and the poor, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess we like and the more I look at movies like this, or just read stories, newspapers, and just talk to different people and see different things, we think we kind of romanticize, like you say, traveling abroad in India and stuff like that, and we like to pride ourselves here in America with having a middle class, which is shrinking really, really fast.
Oh, I feel that the middle
But
class has already disappeared from America. There's no such thing as a middle class. It's either you are rich and you're poor and just trying to survive. Like, I feel like middle class is no more. It's just a word they use, the politicians use to make people feel good.
So, yeah, and I agreed. It was a great allegory, just like
Allegory,
Parasite
SAT word of the day.
The SAT word of the day. Yeah, for like Parasite dealt with class, greed, and wealth, and I think family. But this one deals with morality, which we will get into. I really, really, I love the acting, and the lead character, the lead actor. I cannot say his name, but this was his first major role, and I thought the acting was great. They all did a great job. I don't necessarily. I don't want to try to butcher their names.
Don't.
You think you think my Korean is bad, so I will probably just I will go with their character names rather than their real names. But they were actually, it was all really good. The acting was amazing, and I loved his character. One thing that got me though is, okay, so like you said, when he starts off writing the letter to the Chinese prime minister of whatever, finance or whatever, I think he was the minister of finance or something. And so he starts off writing this letter, and you think like, homeboy, why are you telling this dude your life story? Like, will he really care? And then when you get into it, when you really get into the life story, you're like, dude, did you really put all of that in the letter? And okay, if you put all that in the letter, my next question was, did you mail that?
Oh yeah, because I feel like it may be a possibility on them. Now, granted, I don't think the Prime Minister of China, I don't think that he would find out who he is, right? Because he was in a whole different town from where his crime actually happened. So he wouldn't find out. But then at the same time, like, what if he was to share that and they were to be like, yo, is there any unsolved murders of like rich dudes who, can't find his driver that like stabbed him in the throat a couple times? Like,
Yeah. Like, homeboy. Like, I could understand if you were telling that story to a gangster. Well, we'll leave that up for interpretation. But a true gangster. But I was like, okay. So I liked Ashok. I guess his family would represent the Kim. The Park family from Parasite, but he was kind of caught up in this world of, you could tell when he was in America he was free, and when he came back home he got caught up in the trap and the expectations of his family, and their elitism and their misogyny. Like, they treated his wife horribly. And I couldn't decide, was it because she was a woman? Was it because she was American? Was it a combination of the two?
It's because they have, sexism and gender stereotypes within India, and she didn't know her place. Like, she wasn't in America anymore. And like, I wrote that down in my notes. I was just like, she acted like she was still in America, and how aggressive she was, how outspoken she was, how she talked back to the men. And that's just not what they do. That's just not what his family, how the women in his family would respond. So they were just like, yo, you need to send this chick back to New York, because she's not about this life over here, especially seeing as how you told her 6 months and you told her yet you staying for forever. Like, you not going back to America, because she thinking you about to go back. Like, so
especially, and that was the thing. It's like, okay, did he lie just to get her there?
No, I think he was very influenced by being in America, going to school and everything like that, being educated in America. And then he gets over it. And I will say with a show, like, I didn't like him because he was very weak-minded. And that's ultimately what leads to his downfall, is how weak, like, he had no thoughts of his own. Him becoming a vegetarian, him, kind of being, the nice one. Yeah, that seems really, really good. But at the end of the day, that was the influence of his wife. So that was the influence of his wife. That was the influence of him being America. So American culture influenced him. And then he gets back to India, and you start to see like his father and his older brother influence him. And all of a sudden he starts to change his whole personality. He was very weak-minded. He had no thoughts of his own, no like morals or values of his own. It's whatever everybody else valued that was around him. So when his wife left, you saw how he switched his tune up real quick as soon as his brother showed up.
Yeah, and I wrote that in my notes too. Like, I agree. He came across, like you said in the beginning, as nice, and you thought, like, when you met him, when he tells him, "Don't call me master, don't treat me like that, don't do that," or and it's like, okay, but versus where I got that feeling when we talked about in Parasite, I said that they actually kind of cared. Like, I got the feeling that that their niceness towards the Kims was more sincere, if that makes sense. I didn't feel, and I guess because he really did, because of his weakness and the way he came across as so wishy-washy, I was waiting for him to turn on Balram. Like, it didn't seem sincere to me. It didn't seem real. It seemed like at the drop of a dime, he would just turn on him. And his wife was, I guess, his humanity. Because, like you said, once he got over the fact that she was leaving, then he turned straight up into an asshole. And I'm like, okay, you spent months, because we're just going to assume during the time that you spent all this time crying on this man's shoulder, getting drunk, making him, quote unquote, befriending him. And then as soon as your brother comes back to town, it's like, oh, you never met him, or you didn't know him, or, like y'all didn't spend all that time together. Like, he hadn't been your quote unquote friend. And so I was like, wow. And that was one of the things that I asked our friend about. I was like, hey, just how, if that's how they're really treated. And she said, yeah, if not, in a lot of cases, that they treat them a lot worse. Like, she doesn't know that they would necessarily ever be that cordial to the help, to the servants.
It's definitely true, because I spoke to, I want to say, like, she was my former professor, who's now like one of my close friends, and she also confirmed that. We've had multiple conversations when she was my professor in class about how different classes or different castes are treated within those countries. And that's true. Like, they treat them like trash. Like, the scene where he's massaging the father's leg, and they haven't told him yet that they don't need him to take the fault for the wife killing that kid. And like, she walks in and she's like, did y'all tell him yet? And no one has told him. They're just kind of like acting like, he's still on the rope for this. And then when they tell him, and he leans, because he's so relieved, and he leans on the father's leg, and the father kicks him. And I'm just like, that would be a regular occurrence. I was a little surprised on the fact they didn't show more of how much they would abuse their servants or their slaves, because ultimately that's kind of how it was. It was a slave master a system. So like, they treat them even worse than that. That was the nice version of how much above them they feel that they are as people.
Yeah. Like, and speaking of Pinky, like, the one time her and her misdeeds, like, she was the typical American,
yes.
like, she was in, true enough, she was Indian, and Priyanka Chopra, she did a great job of portraying her. But in this case, I'm glad, and I was telling someone, I'm glad that they did not try to, sanitize the film, or what can I say? I'm glad they didn't try to gentrify the movie.
You mean whitewash it? That's the word you're looking for?
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't try to gentrify or whitewash the movie, because she could have been any blonde like that. Like, she came across to me as a blonde. Like, I was like, I could totally see her being the white blonde, or whatever, American. But the time that I felt like she was really getting comfortable is when she was talking to that lady, and he came in the room and he did something. And she just scolded him, like she went off on him, like she never, like, you're stupid and blah, blah, blah. Like the way she just, you know what scene I'm talking about? Yeah. So that was the one time where I thought, oh, okay, she's going to turn too. And I think until the accident, she really was considering staying. Like, I think if the accident hadn't have happened, he would have been able to convince her to stay.
I don't think she was necessarily a blonde. I do think that she was very American, because that's what I was thinking through the whole thing, is because she went when she was 12 years old, I believe. He said that she was very, very American. She grew up as an American girl, so her mindset was very American. Sometimes, she was very, very strong. She was very strong in her views, I will say that. But at the same time, she recognized the difference in culture. But she also recognized the fact that, unlike her parents in America, she married into a rich family in India. So in India, she married into a rich family. So while I do believe she was genuinely a nice person, I think that wealth definitely changes you sometimes, right? It's not going to completely change who you are. So I'm sure she was nice on a regular basis and just kind of, treating it the way that we would here in America. But there were moments where, she kind of gave off the vibe that she was being influenced a little bit by being in India for too long. She didn't care about the caste system, but at the same time, she had moments where, that caste system really worked for her and she took advantage of it. I feel like, how long did y'all go with him stinking and having horrible breath and not being fully clean? Like that, because that was the moment where he realized that yeah, dude, you need to brush your teeth, because he'd never been taught that. Nobody had ever taught him about hygiene. He'd never brushed his teeth, and you will that's a thing. That's really because they can't afford it. They can't afford the hygienic products, and a lot of times it's not given for free. In the real rural areas where they have to walk a long time before they can even get to the local markets and stuff, that he was not taught those hygienic things. The only thing that he knew was when he went to go introduce himself, that he made sure to let them know he bathed every day. That was the thing. He bathed every day, but he didn't brush his teeth at all.
Yeah, and it tripped me out when he was in the bathroom and he sprayed that air freshener.
Oh my God. And then he saw the price of it and he was like, oh shoot. And I swear it was probably maybe $2-3.
I know.
But he was just so oh my God, this is expensive. And he put it back down and I was just like, oh my God, you thought that was perfume?
Right. I have those moments. It reminds me of a moment when you go into a high-end store and you pick up something. One time we went into the store, it was I want to say it was Neiman Marcus, and I picked up this barrette, and it was this ugly ass barrette, and it was a barrette, and it had a little butterfly or something on it. When I tell you that barrette was $300, and I was like, I dropped it so quick. Not only did I drop it, I made sure to wipe my fingerprints off, and I'm like, nah. So it took me back to that moment when you walk into a store and you see something that's just ordinary.
Yo, and you thinking oh, this can't be too much, and then you look at the price, you're oh shit.
Yeah, why I even touch that? Let me put that.
I'd be yo, that's more than my rent.
Yeah. So I felt like the way he looked at it was like if he could have found a way to refill what he had just sprayed,
he would have. You right.
So yeah, going back to his village, his grandma was a G. I loved his grandma. She was.
I couldn't stand her. She was a bitch.
She was.
And unfortunately, she wasn't a bitch that I liked.
Yeah, but just her character, like she was funny, but she was horrible.
Horrible. Like there was no emotions.
She was horrible.
No emotions whatsoever. Like even when her son died, she was like, "All right, so who making money next?"
Yeah, and it was like all she wanted for him. And he promised to send money, and it's like, okay, you're stewarding your grandson, but I get it. You know, they do go to work and send money back home. And he wasn't even from the slums of India. He was like poorer than the poor because he was from the rural village in India.
2 days to get to a hospital that didn't even have a doctor. They were waiting for a doctor to show up in that village. Like, that's how poor you knew that they were, that he had to walk 2 days with his father to go to a hospital that did not even have medical care. Like people were just laying around sick, waiting to die or waiting for a doctor to show up to help them out, you know?
Yeah. And so I was like, okay. And then, so I'm like, well, he's trying to go to the city to actually make some money to send back to you. But then she was like, okay, get married and have more. I'm like, get married and have more grandchildren and I was like, I guess to work in the village. Because wasn't she like one of the elders of the village?
She
like
was.
The whole village was his family.
Well, no. So it's not necessarily that the whole village was his family. It's just that they call everybody uncle and aunt. Okay. Yeah, so he may not have been blood related to everybody, but because it's basically like you grow up together, like that is your family. So they'd be like, oh, your aunt down the street, but is that really your aunt, or is that just someone that you grew up considering to be your aunt, kind of thing, you know? Because I feel like that's how it was. That's how it is in the islands, right? So I have way more aunts and uncles than I actually do. Because everybody can say how, oh, you remember when I used to babysit you? And I'm like, I was a baby? Like, no. But I mean, I appreciate you helping my mama out. Like, thank you. You know? But no, like his grandmother was because he was making $1,500 to begin with and then $2,000, right? So, and he said he was only able to keep $200 of that. So he was sending back at least $1,300 a month of his money and only able to keep $200 for himself, right? So that means that y'all was living large and in charge in the village based on that, and just kind of taking it for granted that he would just always do it. Like it was no thought in their head that he would get sick and tired of sending majority of his money back to take care of the family. Because then what is it, a scene where like the whole family's behind her? He's just like, you ain't sent money to us in 7 months. You need to get back to sending us money. Why? Y'all stop working? Y'all stop taking care of yourselves? I mean, I understand the gist of it, but in my American mindset, that is what my reaction was. Like, bitch, go work yourself.
I get why he was sending money back. You know, I get that. But I'm like, okay, why are you sending the majority of your money back? And where are they spending all of this money in the village? Yeah. Like,
you know, things cheap in the village. Come on now.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, we're going to have to renegotiate these terms. How about I send you back $200 to $300 and I keep the rest? Like, you know, so grandma was an extortionist, and you know I have a thing for gangsters. Let's just keep it real. So I loved her gangster mentality, but the way that she didn't have any consideration, and she's just like, you need to get married. I'm going to marry you off, and she already like, you know, and I was like, okay, and how she married off his brother, and what was he saying? Like he married his brother to someone he didn't even like, and he had no choice. And it's like they went out, they met one time, then like 2 weeks later or something, they were married.
That's how they roll. That's how they roll. Like you be happy if you know the person you about to marry.
Yeah, and so he was like, "Oh no, that I'm not about this life." So when he got on that bus with those goats, and then when he was driving that car and he saw the people on the boat, and he had that vision of him saying, "I'm in air conditioning, bitches. I'm in air conditioning."
I'm driving in the air conditioned car, but you sweating on the
you on that?
outside of the bus.
You on? So I was like, okay, but and then grandma, when she sends I can't remember. I was like, was that his little
His
brother?
nephew.
Not
It
his
was
little
his
brother,
nephew.
but his nephew. Okay, she sent his nephew to find him and to teach him how to be a driver. And I'm like, okay, but you didn't want him to go be a driver, but now you want the
Because he making
nephew.
good
And
money.
and I asked Bob, and I'm like, okay, so would they really send him that young? And she was like, yeah, and to be like in training, to help, because he was in with one of the wealthiest families. So, and if he was a good employee, then yeah, they would
Because he
hire
would,
on the
so
other.
the nephew would start off just running errands for the family, right? Just kind of running around,
Mhm.
but he would grow up in that environment knowing that one day he would have an official job within the family. So if you get them that young, then you gain loyalty from them, because they'll always look at the family like, well, y'all have been taking care of me since I was young, right? You kind of fed me, you clothed me, you made sure I was good, and I did little errands for you, and that's all I had to do. And sometimes they'd be like, oh, you go to school and then you come back. So yeah, I think, like, I want to say, like, the more I think about it, what I saw, like, with how the system worked, that happens in a lot of other countries, because I can definitely say that happens in the islands, where you start them off really, really young, working somewhere for no pay, kind of for them to get experience, and then when they get old enough, you got them for life, because they're gonna want to work for you just because they have a positive image of you growing up, because you seemed like you were nice.
Yeah, and and I get, and the one thing that was like he got me was how realistic he was about it. Like he was like, "This is the life." It's not necessarily one that I want, but he knew how to play the role. When he was like, the way that they treat us is like he didn't. He was like, some people don't have the idea that, hey, this is a slave system and we're being treated like shit. Like this, because to some people, this is the life, like the other drivers. And so when he learned how to scam the master, I was like, oh wow, he was getting over, running his own little Uber service and all that.
Mm-hmm. Well, he took advantage of the fact that the brother was nice. Like, he didn't want it, because you remember the older brother when he said, oh, make sure that you report the meter every single day, like the mileage, to make sure you're not using a car for your own personal use. But then the younger brother was just like, no, I don't need you to tell me like that at all. Like, nah, you good. Like, no, make sure you don't be sitting in the car with the AC on. And he's just like, oh, come on, like, let him use the AC. So taking advantage of the fact that the younger brother was a little bit nicer about that, and he didn't really care about those little details. That is how he was able to really have his side hustle, is because he knew that he wasn't going to be clocking him and watching him every second of every day. Now, if it had been Mongoose, oh, it'd have been a whole different story. Because Mongoose would have been like, hold up, where did you go? That was a mile extra than where you were when I first got out of the vehicle. Like, where did you go for a mile? Like, Mongoose would have been on top of him.
Mongoose strikes me as the type that would have gotten up early just to go down to the car, or before he got into the back seat, he would have checked the meter himself, like everything,
and
the
then
mileage,
asked him
where
later
the gas.
on, oh, when they first got in, he'd be like, oh, what's the number? Just to make sure you don't lie to him, because he already know what the number is.
Exactly. And then like, oh, these repairs that the car needs, he would have had someone else take the car in for repairs, like, or have the repair guy come there to repair it. Like, Mongoose wasn't about that life. But yeah, now Pinky's accident, we talked briefly about that. That was also something, that we know takes place. And so the cover up, if she hadn't told Balram, sorry, that they didn't need him to take the fall before, I believe that the family would have left him on the hook, because we saw that when Mongoose says, don't forget, I still have your confession.
Yeah, so don't do anything stupid.
Yeah, and then it was explained to me that yeah, it was that simple. It is really that simple to get away with a crime that horrific. Even after she confessed, how there were no consequences for her confessing, because of the family's wealth and position in the country. And like here, they wield it more or less by political power, and the politics and the wealth kind of sometimes they have this symbiotic relationship where one will scratch the other's back. But it was explained to me that is purely wealth. Like, that's why it was so easy in the end for him to pretty much buy the new life. But it's all about the money, not the politics. So I was like, oh,
well, yeah, because the one politician that they liked, the socialist, she was a capitalist at the same time. She's getting her little money on the side.
Look, the good politician who basically sold her views to the highest bid, her beliefs to the highest bidder. That one, yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. And all right, now we talked about them separately, but the relationship between, and I kind of hinted towards it about it, was the relationship between Ashok and Orsak and Balram. And this is really where you see the connection between Parasite and this movie. Because I asked you when we talked about Parasite, did you think the Kims were going to kill the Parks? And you said no. You don't think they thought that far. Did you see this coming?
On him killing him?
Yeah.
Not at the very, very beginning when the story was developing, but yes. Yes. Like, I didn't think the story was going to end with him not killing the guy, because he was the easiest target. Because you knew he was going to get away from the life that he was living. Like, that was the whole purpose of the story. It was figuring out how was he going to end up as rich as he does end up, with how low he was when the story first started. And then I will say that Ashok was the easiest target in the movie. So, I mean, if I thought like that, I'd take him out too.
Yeah, like
he was stupid enough to get out the car with it raining and not get okay, dude. Like, nah, I'm gonna call for help. We gonna wait in here. I ain't getting out in the rain. I'm too good for that.
Thank you.
You ain't see that coming?
Am I surprised? I saw it coming. I did. I guess what I'm trying to say is I didn't see it being cold-blooded. Like, I thought it would come like in a struggle. I thought Ashok would have one of his asshole drunk blackout moments. I thought it would be more of an accidental turn of events. I didn't see it being so premeditated and cold-blooded as it was. Yeah, I didn't. Like, I knew he was going to get jacked. I thought maybe there would be a struggle over him jacking him. I thought maybe he was going to take, he never really had full control of the money. I thought once he got him out the car, I don't know how I saw it playing out, but I just didn't see it being so. And then especially, I will give him credit though. Once he did it, once he made up his mind to do it, he did it. And then once he got over the shock of, oh my God, what have I done? He made sure that the deed was done. Like, he didn't leave him around to possibly tell the tale. Because as soon as he cut that jugular, I'm like, oh yeah, it's over.
Okay, now the one thing I will be surprised about is he went back for his nephew. I am surprised because when he was walking away and he gave him money, he put money in his pocket, and he basically said, I hope he knows when I don't come back in the morning to run. And I was just like, oh shoot, okay, so like, and I'm thinking in my head, like, I hope he knows that too, because he just seems like such a sweet kid, too. Right? And then all of a sudden he came back that night to get him. And I was just like, and I felt like in that moment when he comes back for his nephew, that shows his true character. because he wasn't an evil guy. He was a guy who was turned bad because of his situation. Not necessarily, he wasn't innate evil. He wasn't innate bad. He didn't have innate like bad thoughts about like his master or whatever like that. But so I think that showed his true nature and his true character is the word I'm looking for. It showed his true character that he went back for his nephew and took him with him. Now, granted, he ain't never checked to see if the rest of his family was good, but he was there for his nephew, and you could tell like he was raising his nephew the way that he had wished he had been raised.
Yeah, like he letting going to school, educating, because that was one of the things you got. It was like you understand, but he was like you can tell he regretted, like he wished he had been able to stay in school, like he wished he had been able to learn. And it broke my heart. We talked about it briefly when he was like, my father never even taught me something as simple as brushing my teeth, So I was like, I appreciate that. But yeah, that's the one that really shook me. Like I said, I wasn't surprised that Ashok died. I was just surprised at how he died. I thought it would be something a bit more of an accident involved in it. I didn't think he was just going to go straight up and, kill him and take his money.
Stab him. Like he just went for it. He went for it, yo.
Yeah, and like you say, I'm not saying Ashok deserved it, but he was dumb.
He set himself up to be killed, okay?
Yeah, like by that time you thought, okay, you've been in a family, like you're full on in the family business. Your hands are all over the dirty money and the corruptness at this point. You've pretty much, it seems like you're turning into more of your older brother by the day. To get Pinky out of your system or whatever you're doing, whatever shred of humanity or decency she had tapped into you, the differences between who you were when you weren't with her and when you were with her, they were fully visible now. So I'm like, dude, are you just that stupid too? Like, you gonna let this dude, who is the servant, who is your fucking driver, convince you to get out of the car in the pouring rain to help him
rather than calling somebody for help?
You know what? This has been my response. Bitch, what the fuck I pay you for? Like,
I be like, and then the thing is, it's raining and you ain't even got no umbrella. And then here's the thing that you knew he was stupid. This is how you knew he was an idiot, right? So you get out of the vehicle, and instead of your driver bending down to show you what's up with the tire, he tell you to take a look. Bitch, you don't know nothing about no car.
Thank you. Like, nah, I'm good. Let me call AAA because you don't have a phone. So let me just call AAA or whoever comes to do this. But I'm not getting out the car. Or better yet, let me call a new car service. And so I have a question though. Had he really been replaced? Like, was he really training?
No, yeah, they had already hired somebody new to take his job. If he hadn't killed him, like he would have ultimately lost his job and been nowhere. Because remember when the guy said, like, once you're not a driver anymore, you're nothing, you're no one, you're homeless, like you have nowhere to go and no money and you have no job and you have nowhere to live. So.
And let's be honest, where they lived was basically literally a step, maybe a micro step, because when he woke up and what was it, those hornets or those scorpions or those whatever they were, those roaches, when he had that fly net, he had to sleep under that fly net because he woke up and there were so many roaches that they were just singing a little whatever, making this whole cacophony. That's my other SAT word. I was like, oh God. And it kind of reminded me of the scene from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom where he sticks his hand in that wall with all the roaches. Do I need to ask it? Have you ever seen
I'm sticking my middle finger up at you right now.
Okay, when you got look, I could tell. I was like, she's rolling her eyes at me or something or whatever. But I was like, yeah, okay. But I was just like, oh my god. And so him being homeless, and what was like, and I thought he lost his mind when he went out there and he just sat down and he took a shit in the middle of that field in that dump with that homeless man, that other man, and he just starts laughing. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, dude, have you really lost it? Like at that moment, and I guess that was one of the moments when I thought, okay, he's gonna go back and kill Ashok now because he's lost it, you know. He's having a moment. Like I thought it would be in the throes of the breakdown when Ashok was drunk and he couldn't get him to wake up. I thought, okay, he died. He's gonna die of alcohol poisoning or overdose right here, or they're gonna get into a fight and he's gonna fall over the balcony and they're going to blame him or something. Like I saw several other times when Ashok could have died and he could have taken responsibility and or done it, but I just didn't see it happening like that. And I was like, oh, okay, you a little gangster. But I loved when he went back to get his nephew, and then when he did finally make it to Bangalore, and he walked into that police station. And he told him, and he said, and what is this for? He said, for all the trouble you're going to keep me out of. I'm like, damn.
It's gangster right there. But I will say at the end, once again, showing his true character is that because of what he went through, he didn't turn out to be a horrible boss like the people that he worked for. But he actually treated his first of all, he treated them like employees. So he made them know, like, no, we not family. We not family. I got one person who's my family, and he right here. The rest of you are not my family. You're my employees. But I'm gonna treat you with respect, and I'm gonna make sure you're taken care of. Because when I was you, I was not taken care of by my employer, who I consider to be my family, because that's how I was raised. So I love the ending the overall ending. I thought was really good to show. I love the whole movie on how it showed the progression of where he started and how he ended up where he was. I thought the sequence, that's not the right word, but I can't think of the right word right now. But I love the fact of like how the story progressed over time. I thought it was really great on how it progressed, where you really could believe the different moments in his life that leads up to him being who he ends up becoming.
Yeah, it was really well told, and I love that too. Like he made that distinction. Like, look, y'all are my employees. I am the boss, but I'm not your master. You're not my slaves. You have a job to do. I expect you to do it. I will treat you with respect and dignity that you deserve. I will treat you fairly, pay you fairly. So he seemed to he learned from the people of the past. But what I love, so there are two things that happened at the end that I really loved. One of them was when the kid when the kid ran over or got into that accident. He went and he was like, no, he's my driver. So therefore,
that wasn't a kid. That was a grown ass man.
Oh, the man. Okay. I thought he was like,
it was a grown ass man.
Okay. So, but he, but I still get that. And I understand. And then he went to the family and he was like, look, he gave him some money and he said, when he's of age, tell him to come work for me. So, it's like he was still looking out. But the other thing I loved, which goes back to just a random conversation that if you were not paying attention to, you might have missed. And it goes back to a conversation that he had with Ashok, I guess about halfway through the movie when they were talking about Ashok's name and what it meant. And he goes, I like your name. And Ashok was like, whatever. He goes, if you want it, take it. It's yours. And at the end, you find out that he took the man's name.
Took the name
like,
of the man
not only
he killed.
took his life. Yeah, it's like you not only took his life, but you took his name, man. My name is my name. So it was just like, okay. And I guess having gone through that, telling that whole story, knowing what we know at the end, that's why I'm like, did you really send those fucking letters, dude? Like, I understand you feeling like you have to get it out and write it down and all of that, but please tell me you did not actually send those letters to anybody that could come back. But, you know, as you said, at the end, we see that the Prime Minister of Finance, or whatever his role was, really didn't even recognize or have the time for him or whatever. And he still seemed unfazed by it. He was like, that's okay, we gonna be all right.
He's like, because the white man is dead and the black and brown man gonna take over. I mean, not the black and brown, the black and yellow, and the brown and yellow man is about to take over.
So, all right. So overall, what did you think? What would you rate it?
I'm going to rate it at a 3.75. I really, really enjoyed it overall. I thought it was a great story. Yeah, I just enjoyed it. Like I said, I've already explained why I loved it so much. So 3.75. The acting was great. The storyline was great. Yeah, it was really good. What about you?
I give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it as well. I of course went through all the reasons why I enjoyed it, and I thought it was good. You know, it's hard pressed for me to find something that I don't like that Ava DuVernay is a part of. And I must say I'm becoming an even bigger fan of Priyanka Chopra Jonas. And
she's not just a Indian sex symbol.
Yeah, and once you go back and know her story and kind of know some of the things that she went through on the show that she had here, I can't think of the name right now,
Quantico.
But I used to watch it. Quantico. When you go back and you see some of the things, it's like, yeah. So, but yeah, I give it a 4.0, and so that takes us to about a 3.8 on the popcorn scale, a 3.9 on the popcorn scale, overall scale. Yes, I'm still nerding out. Averaging out the range.
That's not an average, but I'll take it.
Okay, so technically, if I round up, it comes up to a 3.9. But if I round up, or even at 3.8, it would be a 4. You know, but I'm glad that we both enjoyed it. And I normally ask, should there be a sequel or a continuation? No. I am tempted to read the book, though. The book was published in like 2008, but we'll see about that. Who knows, you know, what will happen. But I don't think there should be a sequel. I like the way it ended. I think the story was well told from beginning to end. You know, we know how it ends up. I don't think in a country as big as India, and especially in a town where he has the entire police force on his payroll, that they're going to find him. So, you know, it's all good. What about you?
I concur.
Okay. Well, that does it for this episode of the Popcorn Line Down, and I want to thank you all for joining us as always. Be sure to check us out daily on the popcornlinedown.com. Plug, pop. Yes, I'm going to get my sound effect. I'm claiming it now.
He always claims it. He still ain't got it yet, y'all.
Speaking into existence. Some things take a little longer than others. And also be sure to like, subscribe, listen, and follow to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Google. And until next time.
And I'm Tammy.